In this video, we're going to dive into the craziest B2B lead generation system for insurance agencies in 2026. Now, we've used this system countless times, including for our own services, insurance agencies, and marketing agencies. And while it seems complex, it's actually very simple. Here's a sample campaign that we just started running a few days ago on December 6th. As you can see here, we started the campaign with only 1,080 leads. We're only 19% of the way through, and we already have a 15.8% positive reply rate with $15,000 in opportunities, and we're only a week into the campaign. And so what we will be doing in this video is going through the entire 8-step framework that we use to help businesses like insurance agencies consistently drive leads into their pipeline without having to worry about where the next lead will come from. And so at its core, we're doing something very simple. For any business, we can send cold emails to leads and turn them into potential clients. And so cold emailing is essentially sending emails to people you don't know so you can get their interest and spike some curiosity, build some sort of relationship, and then sell them something. It's really that simple. So if you're genuinely committed to leveling up your lead generation game in 2026, stick with me for the next 15 minutes so you can build something predictable and scalable. And if you're an insurance agency or another type of business owner, you can actually go ahead and schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me and my team using the first link in the description. I'm only accepting 3 people per video, so make sure to grab your spot fast. And now let's get into the lead generation framework that's earning businesses hundreds of thousands of dollars in opportunities. And so here's our exact workflow. And before we dive in, I just want to say that you can think of cold email as pretty much any other lead generation mechanism. You have to create an offer, get some leads, source those leads, process the leads, write the copy, or produce some sort of content that's going to get them through to you, and finally launch. And so this is exactly what we're going to be doing here. I'm going to be revealing all of the secret sauce, so I definitely recommend you stay until the end. And so anyway, let's start with the first step. Creating your offer. Now the offer is very important because it literally determines everything in your campaign. It determines your value proposition, or essentially what you're offering to the leads that you're contacting. It oftentimes includes something like your guarantee, which helps establish trust and get people over the fence. And then it also sets your commitment because you're not just another person that's offering insurance. And so the way you craft an offer is actually pretty simple. Here are 2 different offers from different industries and services, and you can clearly see the difference between them. So the first one is very generic. It's something like, we provide insurance for loan officers. It's more of an observation than an offer. And honestly, if you try to throw it at the wall, it's not something that's really gonna stick. So instead, an example of an amazing offer is, we help insurance agents sign 10 to 20 loan officers in 30 days or less without price wars, compliance headaches, or chasing referrals. Alex Ramosi puts this in very nicely. And so this formula is essentially the dream outcome, which is signing 10 to 20 loan officers, plus the perceived likelihood of achievement, divided by the time taken, which in here we state that it's 30 days, plus the effort or sacrifice, and in here it counters some of the common problems and provides a solution for them. And so having done this for many businesses, I can confidently state that locking in your offer is one of the most high leverage and important ways you can succeed in cold email. And so after you've created your offer, preferably an offer that actually has some social proof or past success, you can move on to the next step, which is creating filters for leads, or more commonly known as prospecting. And so I'll show you how to do this in a second, but essentially what this is about is narrowing down your targeting to a specific group of people. So now instead of targeting loan officers in America, you're going to design an optimal search query, which is very specific. So this could be loan officers in the California, Oregon, and Washington area in companies with 5 to 50 employees. You're going to define some specific keywords, some specific industries, and some specific job titles. So now instead of pulling in a lead list of 100,000, 200,000 people, you're pulling in a specific list with 2,000, 5,000, or 10,000 people that are actually more qualified and fit for your offer. And so when I mentioned creating filters for leads, once again, it's the same thing as prospecting. Over here, I'm in a platform called Apollo. For those of you who are not similar with it, it's a platform where you can find a bunch of leads. I think they have around 250 million leads inside of this database, and it's something very powerful that you can actually use for yourself and get leads from, which I'll show you in the next steps. But all you need to know is that here on the side, when you sign up for Apollo, there are a bunch of filters that you can take advantage of here. So in this case, I was going for a real estate search specifically for commercial real estate agencies. And as you can see here, I was targeting owners, CEOs, and founders. At the same time, I set the location to the United States. I set the number of employees in the company to from 5 to 50, and I also provided the industries and the keywords you can both include and exclude people from your list. And this kind of simple setup is exactly what got me to a total of 7,100 leads, which is definitely a sweet spot for a number when you're retrieving those leads. And Apollo's not the only place where you can do this. You can also use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is personally my favorite, or you can also use things like Google Maps. So on that note, let's actually dive into the specific ways that you can scrape leads. Now, scraping leads is essentially pulling them from the internet. You're basically getting a data source, like over here, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Google Maps, or Apollo. And then you're using various different tools to go ahead and scrape or pull leads from those databases. The first of these is LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is extremely powerful. It's something we use for nearly all of our campaigns, and it's always a very nice, up-to-date way of fetching leads because LinkedIn gets them from its own platform, so you can always trust those results. And now to actually get the leads that you prospected for, there are usually 3 different tools that you can use. It's either Vane, AirScale, or Phantom Buster. Now, these all perform the same exact purpose. They're slightly different. Personally, we like to use Vane, but there's no reason not to use AirScale or Phantom Buster in your setup. And so taking AirScale as an example, the first function that you can see on this website is scraping Sales Navigator search results. Now, that's exactly what we just talked about, scraping a database of leads. And usually what this involves is you basically create your filtered list inside of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and pretending that this is a LinkedIn Sales Navigator link, you'd essentially copy it and then upload it inside of AirScale, which would actually allow AirScale to go ahead and automate the scraping of the leads, and eventually it would give you a nice file of leads, and you can upload that into Google Sheet, as I have here. So usually with those scraped leads, what you're going to get are things like the first name, the last name, their email address, information about their company, and much more, which you can actually use to craft those campaigns. And so you can do the same thing with Vane, AirScale, and Phantom Buster. This video is not sponsored by any of these tools, but if you're going to use one of those tools, feel free to use the links I dropped in the description. Those are referral links that you can use to help support me for going ahead and creating this video. And so what LinkedIn is usually best for is for quality, and as I mentioned, up-to-date lead data, and that's usually our go-to for most leads. Now, next up, what we have is Google Maps. As we all know, Google Maps, whether you use it for directions, for finding your dentist, or something else. And so Google Maps actually has a bunch of leads that you can go ahead and use a specialized platform called Appify to get the exact details of those businesses. And so I'll drop a helpful link for this in the description, but just know that Appify has this Google Maps scraper, and what it allows you to do is simply put over here, you basically input the location that you want to search businesses for, and then you basically get the details of the businesses, their reviews, their open hours, and many other details that you can also use to craft your campaigns. And if you're looking for someone to do this for you, as I mentioned before, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that first link in the description so we can chat about your options and what's best for you. And so Google Maps is usually best for finding those brick and mortar, local offline businesses like HVAC, bakeries, or other businesses. And for the final method, we have something called Apollo. Now, Apollo, as you'll recall, is the exact same platform that I just showed you a few minutes ago. It's very similar to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and even though the data is sometimes worse in quality, you can actually get leads for affordable prices to initially launch your campaigns. And Apollo is usually used with something like Appify, as I mentioned before over here, or something called Trusted Leads, which is a pretty amazing service, but it's just a very good way to upload some details about the leads that you want, and then go ahead and retrieve them in your final form. Now, this usually costs around $50 for 10,000 leads, which is actually pretty affordable because it's less than half a cent per lead. So this is another fairly decent option. And so this is usually best for fast, done for you scraping for the people who are looking to get launched fast. But depending on your specific situation, you might choose any of these 3 options. But once you're done with scraping those leads and pulling them from a database, you're not quite ready to launch just yet. What comes after this is what I call the PEQO framework. Now it stands for Prepare, Enrich, Qualify, and Organize, and it comes in multiple steps. So depending on what you use to scrape your leads, you're going to follow some different next steps for getting all of the emails of those leads and then actually ensuring that those emails are verified. With a platform like AirScale, it's pretty convenient, so it's actually very simple to find emails and verify them while also scraping them. With Vane, you would have to use something like any mail finder or ICPs. And basically what those platforms do is they allow you to find real emails and actually verify them. Now this is important because some lead sources like LinkedIn, even though they're high quality, will not always provide emails. So it's important to use another tool like one of these 2 to find those emails. Now Phantom Buster, another way to scrape LinkedIn, it's also pretty flexible. You can either use its built-in functions to find those emails and verify them, or use any mail finder. For Google Maps, it's going to be a pretty similar story. You're usually going to use any mail finder. For Apollo and Appify, you'll usually get the the emails, and most of them are going to be verified, but you want to be extra careful. So after you receive the full list of leads, you're going to want to run it through a tool like Mail Test or Ninja, which is just going to go through one by one through these emails and verify that they exist. And finally, for trusted leads, as I mentioned, this is a done for you setup pretty much, so they can actually pre-verify the emails for you for another $20 per 10,000 leads, which is once again extremely cheap. Or you can use Mail Test or Ninja, which in some cases might actually be more affordable. And so after you've gone ahead, found those emails and then verified them, there are plenty of tutorials available online for how to use any of these tools. You can move on to the next step of the small framework. So for any of the following processes, and this is one of many methods to use, I just prefer to use it. The simplest way to get started is to usually upload all of your leads into a single Google Sheet, because it makes it very easy to store them and make any changes in bulk. So for any of the following processes, you would usually use something like Google Sheet. Now, Google Sheet app scripts are essentially lines of code. This is not too technical. You can actually use something like ChatGPT to do all of the coding and the logic and whatnot for you. But essentially what this can do is help you organize your sheet. So for my lead list, which I had over here, you can see a column called score. Now this is where I was scoring those leads on a scale of 1 to 10, with 6 or above being qualified and anything below 6 not being qualified. So for example, if I saw that some of the rows here included people with scores of 1, 3, or 5, I would run an app script, just a simple few lines of code that goes ahead and deletes any row whose score value is less than 6. And so this can be used for many different things. So if some rows in the email column are missing the email, we can just delete the lead, no big deal. And if some rows in the email column, maybe they're not validated, you can also delete that. And so this can be used for many other processes. You just kind of have to get a bit creative. And what this does at the end of the day is it cleans up any invalid leads, and it gives you the cleanest list possible that is now ready to be enriched and qualified. And so if I haven't mentioned before, I'm actually going to be dropping a resource pack of my favorite tools, app scripts, and other useful information that we personally use at our company. Now, after you've done that step, we're now going to move on to the qualification and the enrichment. And so at this point, there's really no reason to not use AI for something like enhancing the information you currently have and really making sure that your cold emails perform the way that they deserve to. What I usually use for this is something called NAN. NAN is basically an AI and automation workflow platform, and what this allows us to do is to get leads in large amounts and process them through our workflows. And in one of these workflows, as you can see here, we have research modules, which find information about the company, qualification AI agents, which go ahead and actually determine whether the current lead is qualified or not, and then company name cleaning. And we do this because the data we're given is not always perfect. There are often leads that don't belong there and things that we can just further optimize. Now, I have 2 workflows here available. You're going to be able to download both of them inside of my resource library and use them to your own advantage for completely free. But there is a small difference between the 2 of them, and it really depends on the level of setup that you're ready to go for. So let me go ahead and explain this bottom workflow. This one uses Google Sheets. So we basically connect our Google Sheets account to this. It uses a research capability, which is what I previously showed here. And then it uses AI to get leads ready. And so specifically, it cleans company names, and cleaning company names is just so important because we use something called variables inside of emails. And basically we pre-fill the email with values like the company name. And oftentimes we get the company name in this kind of ugly format. And so Buckside Realty Holdings LLC becomes simply Buckside if you're using it in a simple conversation. And that's all happening while we are also qualifying the lead. And finally, what this advanced setup has is a personalization creator. So once again, based on the information that I got from this research module, we're actually able to craft some personalized messages for leads. So if I'm messaging John, and John is very interested in golf and he often talks about it, I could have the first line of my email say something like, "Hey John, I love the fact that you have 63 hole-in-ones throughout your journey in golf." And so that's just a very simple but effective way to get people's attention and realize that, hey, this person actually did some research on me and knows me, which is going to make them much more likely to reply to your email. Once again, both of these workflows are going to be available for you to access below, so you can download them at your convenience. And so finally, after we have wrapped up everything with the leads, we are now ready to go ahead and get into the actual email sending part of it. Isn't that exciting? And so email 7 is all about setting up our email sending and uploading leads. And this usually involves a cold emailing software, which sends emails and where we can actually upload the leads that we have gotten. And besides that, we also have to connect cold email inboxes, and cold email inboxes are really nothing special. They're basically your regular emails, like name@example.com, but you just get them in larger amounts so that you can send a lot of emails per day. And so one huge and honestly beautiful part of our own premium service that we offer is a completely free setup of mailboxes for cold email campaigns. So each mailbox usually costs around $3 on average, and each domain costs $15. But because we're able to offer this free pre-setup, you can actually save $200, $500, or even $1,000, so you don't have to spend a penny before you get results. And so if you're interested in this, and as I mentioned, we only have 3 consultation spots available for each video, just go ahead and book it. I'm excited to see you there. But anyway, just some simple and quick facts. Each domain, worth $15, can have up to 3 mailboxes attached to it. And each mailbox usually sends around 20 to 30 emails per day. So in order to send 1,000 emails per day, you would need something like 30 to 50 mailboxes. And so once you've gotten the mailboxes, the hard half is complete. Now you also have to use a cold emailing platform. I recommend Instantly, the $97 per month plan, which can allow you to send up to 100,000 emails per month. And so as you can see, this is a relatively cheap system, which comfortably runs at less than $500 per month for 1,000 emails per day. And so I personally send around 2,000 emails per day, and currently it's costing me less than $600 per month. And so as I mentioned here, Instantly is the platform that I recommend for the cold email sending. It allows you to send those 100,000 emails monthly for this cost over here. And if you're looking to do this cold email setup by yourself, you can usually use 2 providers. They're called Zapmail and then Inboxology, which both allow you to get affordable mailboxes, except now you're paying for the setup, which is $3 per mailbox and around $15 per domain. And then step 8, which is the final step, is copywriting. Now, copywriting is probably one of the most high leverage processes in your cold email campaigns. You can use all of my templates to spin up a copy relevant to your audience. I'll drop that in the resource library as well below. And so one thing I really want to stress is just make sure that you're using the same tone that you speak with to those people on the phone or in real life. And emails don't have to be formal. In fact, they're usually better off casual and friendly. As you can see in this example, instead of saying something formal like, "Hello, Mr. Marksman," using something like, "Hey John," is often better and converts much more reasonably. But don't quote me on that. Of course, use whatever tone is right and use my templates, which, as I said, I'll provide below. And so that's nearly it. We've gone through the 8 main steps of setting up a cold email campaign, and what I want to leave you with for today are just some tips, tricks, and small things to note about cold email campaigns. And this includes things like campaign settings, which I'm actually just going to go ahead and show you in a second. Inside of a cold email campaign here in Instantly, you're going to be able to set up specific settings for each campaign. So here for the schedule, you can set up different times. This usually varies based on the niche and what kind of industry you're in, but typically a schedule I like to stick to is from the morning to the afternoon or the evening, and feel free to adjust as needed based on the hours of your industry. But something I really want to stress here is the fact that you can be sending emails all 7 days. The fact that you should be sending only 5 days a week on work days is actually pretty inaccurate, because if the weekend is 27% of the entire week, why not get some more emails in? Because chances are the true decision makers are likely working on weekends and late hours, so it's best to take advantage of that. So you can set up your schedule here, pretty straightforward. The next point is reply as soon as possible. You convert 391% more leads simply by replying in the first 5 minutes, or you can get an AI system like we have that actually alerts us, and if we don't reply to the lead within just 3 minutes, it goes ahead and actually composes a reply for us so that we don't lose the lead to time. And so the final point, get all of the helpful links and resources using the resource link that I attached in the description. It costs you absolutely nothing, and I'm generally trying to give you all of the resources that you need to get your cold email set up and running. And if you're still a bit on the fence or simply don't have the time to learn about an entire new lead generation method, as I said before, you can book that free 30-minute consult with us using the first link in the description. Over there, we're going to have a real chat about what your cold emailing system needs and how you can seriously start using it to get more qualified leads and buyers. But on that note, I do appreciate you for sticking to the end. If you like this video and the resources I provided below, make sure to give this video a like and go ahead and actually comment about what you would like to see in the future. But with that, I do wish you a very nice day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.